On this episode, Phoenix GT recap, the Dutch top 3 and Team NL updates with my guest, Daan van Herk. Welcome to the Board Report podcast, the second episode at the moment. Took a while for us to do the second episode. The first one was before the previous GT, Phoenix GT, and the second one now is after this Phoenix GT. I'm excited because the intent is to go through the latest Phoenix GT tournament that we had. For today, I have a co-host, Daan van Herk. Welcome, Daan, to the podcast.
Thank you, Ron. Happy to be here.
Excellent. And for today, we will be diving in, like I said, into the Phoenix GT. It was a really big tournament in the Netherlands. We had a full Dutch success. That means that we had a full Dutch top 3 players, which is always fun, of course. But most importantly, it was after the September data slate. And well, I'm excited to dive into the event and see what was happening. So, Dan, you were one of the participants in the Phoenix GT as well.
That's correct, Ron. I was actually on your stream as well in round 2.
That is true. We had the board report live as well, with the battle reports or the live commentating of several games. You had a game versus one of the players that is actually in the top 3.
Yep.
So how was the general impression of the event itself before we dive into the nitty gritty of the top 3 players?
I would say the event was really well run. You could really see that Sam, the TO, and CJ have taken great strides from the last event, which was already great, and smoothen out some of the rougher edges. Can't say there were any hiccups whatsoever. Everything was really clear, and yeah, really happy with how it went.
Excellent. I have to agree with that as well. I think one of the biggest changes they did from last time is that they went through to a 5-round event from 3 rounds the first day, then 2 rounds in the second.
Yep.
In my what I can see as a streamer, as a host, not a participant, is that players are a lot more relaxed in those final 2 games of the second day instead of being a bit on edge in that 6th round. That might be, it's a lot after 2 days.
Yeah, it really can be. People get tired, and it can have, well, very different outlooks on one game. Like someone wants to come home at some point. Is 4-1 is actually happy and is kind of annoyed that he has to play a 6th round. And some people actually want to strive for the 5-1. So you can get some games that have, well, 2 players with very different outlooks.
I agree. I agree. So let's take a peek at the top 3 from this event. Like I said, we have a Dutch top 3. Of course, it's a Dutch event, but we also have a lot of international players in most big Dutch events, especially because Europe it's tiny compared to, for example, the States or the UK. So we have our champion, JC van der Lee. He was playing a Blood Angels list. They got hit a tiny bit by the data slate, some post nerfs with points, but on
I
the
would
other
disagree,
hand,
honestly.
you think the Sanger change has done wonders for them?
Yeah, I think the 5-point increase to buy the 2-up weapon skill and to buy the extra attack on the spear is actually a net bonus, since it makes that unit not over-dependent anymore, which means it frees up room for stuff like JC has brought, Vanguard Vets, to get benefits from that overchange. So I think it's a net bonus, actually.
That is a really good point. So before we dive really deeper in his list, let's quickly mention the runner-up and the third place. The runner-up was Justin Janssen. He came with a Necron list, Awakened Dynasty, which I think one of the TOs during the prize ceremony said, you kill something, it resurrects, you kill something, it resurrects, in a nutshell.
Yep.
And then Martijn van der Most, he was our third player. We have seen him twice on the stream as well, so you can watch his games back on the live VOD as well on YouTube. And he brought a fun, maybe not if you're playing against it, ACDC list with, I think, we joked around, but he had a box with all his models and he just dumped it on the table, basically.
More or less how the list works, yeah.
Exactly. So let's get into JC's list first. like we said, he's playing Blood Angels. It's not a lot of models. He has Dante as his warlord,
Hmm.
10 Vanguard vets with Infernal pistols, um, 2 units of Sanguinary Guard, 1 of 6 with blades, and 1 of 3 with spears. 3 times Death Company with jump packs, 1 big unit of 10, 2 small units of 5. He has Lamartis, of course, 2 captains, 1 with a jump pack, both with power fists. And then he has some support. He has Infiltrator Scouts, Stern Guard, and some JPIs to fish for mortals. Um, yeah, it all around. It seems like a solid list. Normally, you have some Infernal pistols, but like you
Hmm.
said, now he has a full unit of Vanguard vets because he doesn't need a lot of support for those singers anymore.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things I didn't mention actually is that usually Dante was run with the Vanguards
Hmm.
because he gave them that +1 to hit, which upped them to the twos you needed before. Dante being able to join Vanguard Vets really gets that unit going because the Inferno Pistols will be also be hitting on twos, which is great value, and it also adds a bit of damage to that unit because Dante himself is quite the beatstick, honestly.
And is the because the Vanguard vets, um, the unit itself,
Hmm.
normally you had, I don't know, weren't they there in the list before the slate, or is it just something that it's tacked into because of high monster vehicle lists you're up against?
At WTC, there were quite a lot of Blood Angels. I can't say there were a lot of Vanguard Vets, honestly. So I think that is, yeah, a new tech because of the change and because
Hmm.
the Dante change allowed it to. Um, and I believe Vanguard Vets also got a bit cheap in the slate. Could be wrong, but they're just a smidge above JPI now, which makes them real efficient if you can get a good leader in there. Because you can also see them in the very early Shadow Mark builds, which we didn't see at this event.
I see. And what is the biggest difference between the list you just mentioned and this list then?
Between the WTC lists,
Hmm.
let's see. Those lists were more stable, I'd say. Some people really tacked into small Sangard units. Some lists tacked into more foot infantry. This list is all violence, mostly jump pack infantry to really benefit from the difference in terrain between WTC and this event. Of course, the WTC, you have the benefit of teams, you get your table pick, but I would say Phoenix tables were perfect for Blood Angels, World Eaters, and the like because the fire lanes were quite difficult to reach if you're not fast. And jump back can really stage well and get into all the places they need to for the next turn for big
Right.
pushes, which I think JC employed to the fullest.
Yeah, he played that very well indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so his general game plan is with a list like this is put on pressure because you have a lot of jump back models. You get that, of course, speed bonus with the Liberator Assault Group.
Mm-hmm.
You want those charges because you want those attacks. You want that strength.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And he played well, but he did not score very high in all his games. He
No,
went 89, 74. I think that was the game versus you. Is that correct?
it was, yeah. That was a
Yeah.
real slugfest.
Interesting. Um, so can you, what was your takeaway from the game versus him on the second round on this tournament? It was an early round.
Yeah. It's funny because, as many of you probably know, JC is my vice captain at Team NL. So we discussed the matchup at length before, and we really hoped to dodge each other so we could get 5-0 both of us. Well,
Mm,
round two, there is already the pairing.
right.
And it's funny because on a more neutral terrain set, I would say it's Death Guard favored.
Hmm.
But of course, the terrain here gave JC the outs that he needed to really get a good game going. And he wasn't familiar with the game at all. JC hasn't played for a long while,
Oh,
but you could
right.
tell he still had his whole skill set right up there. He went second on Purge, really played well with that in mind. And yeah, got a 1 point win.
Exactly. Really close game.
Yeah,
So
great
we'll
fun
get
though.
into the nitty-gritty of the scoring of the list a bit later.
Hmm.
Just some tech choices that he made, or maybe could have changed if he needed to. Let's take a peek at the runner-up, Justin's list. Um, Different club, which is always fun. We had a lot of different clubs at the event, and in the top, I think top 7 even.
Nice.
Um, I think it's like the silver wave. It's just they keep on coming.
Yeah, it's amazing. Justin actually played the list for Team Netherlands at WTC, or at least a different version of it.
Hmm.
In this list, he had 40 warriors. At WTC, he had 60, and he knew he lacked the damage for singles for some matchups. So he changed the list around. But the core concept remains the same. You have the two 20-man warrior bricks, which have a lot of buff pieces behind them, like the Canoptech Reanimator, the what's it called? Catacomb Command Barge, which gives them OC3 for each model, which
Right,
means 4 Necron Warriors, which is very easy to get on an objective with the Resurrects, is already 12 OC. Not many armies can match that, I can tell you. And
right.
because one of the bricks has a 4-up invuln, it's really tough to get through within one activation. And the key thing is you need to be able to. If you can't, they'll just resurrect back. He'll use the resorb when it gets tight. He'll use the strat and he'll just dominate the midfield and the primary scoring. There's not that much damage in build, but it just chips away at you, since the other character he joins is the Royal Warden, which allows him to fall back, shoot, and charge. Which is nice because warriors do okay damage, but the best thing about this, he can charge back onto different objectives to really play the movement game better than any army can and tag up stuff that armies can't really permit to be tagged.
Yeah, just keep on coming back, 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 and just outscore you, regardless of what you try to attempt. If you cannot wipe the entire squad, you're basically done.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's really asymmetrical Warhammer in that sense. It's a weird attrition race that you cannot win, but it's also not tabling you at the same time. So it's funny. You need a real different game plan to beat it.
Right, interesting, and especially on an event like this where you not playing in a team.
Mhm.
If you didn't bring the tools to deal with it, you're kind of out of luck.
Yeah, I think Justin will be very happy in the end that he didn't have to play against, say, JC or World Eaters, because those armies would probably have the tools to clear a brick, and then the game becomes real difficult. It's a
Yeah,
quite binary army in that sense.
I can imagine. Um, they didn't really have any changes for a list like this in the data slate.
Nope,
The change from Resurrection was done, I think, in June, just before
quite a while
WTC.
back, yeah,
Yeah,
quite a while back.
exactly. So he has had a lot of practice with placing them back in the new way instead of stringing them along the entire table
Yeah, for sure, for
when
sure.
playing them back. Okay, interesting. Um, then let's take a peek at the third list, the Martijn van der Most list. He was playing Chaos Space Marines, but actually he was just playing cultists, basically.
Yes.
Cultists of various sizes, so Dark Commune and Accursed Cultists combined into one really big mega blob, buffing them, giving them I'm not sure, do the Dark Commune get the Desperate Pact as well, or just the cultist mobs?
No, the Dark Communes get them as well, or at least the Accursed Cultists do. So the Dark Commune benefits from it as well, since it's one unit.
Exactly. So for people not aware, the Chaos Cult gives you an extra roll for each of your units, and that gives you, I think, a 2-up on your charges and a 2-up on your advances
And your movement.
and your movement. So that
Yeah.
makes them like rockets you can propel throughout the map. And oh, you get some mortal wounds, doesn't matter. You have 20 plus models in your unit anyway, and you don't really care if you lose one tiny one wound cultist.
Yeah, exactly. There are 21 model units, and I think there's only 7 that really matter. It's the Torments, the guys with the d6 plus 2 attacks, and the Cult Demagogue, which gives the unit a 5-up invuln. Yeah, the unit just supercharges once per battle, gives itself +1 to hit, +1 to wounds, and advance and charge. So it's real fast because of Desperate Pacts, and it has great strat support in this detachment as well, since it can give itself full reels to hit, packed for full reels to wound as well. Sorry. And can give itself +1 AP as well.
Wow, yeah, that can be quite a bit. And what I think is interesting is I think this is a hard list to play in something like a 3-hour game
Oh
because
yeah.
so many models.
Yeah, I was surprised Martijn actually pulled it off, because the funny thing is, he built this list, or at least built it together with Simon Borgers, who many of you probably know,
Hmm.
after last weekend's ETC Eurotrash Cup, where Simon played it for our team. He switched a few things around, but he was not familiar with playing horde armies before that at all. He played T-Sons, he played Nits, mostly very few activation armies. So I'm quite impressed that he managed to pull this off.
Indeed. I think the teching, well, maybe it's not really teching, but the four predators that he takes,
Yeah,
what I thought was really interesting is with his play is how well he used them using deep strike, or not deep strike because they can't deep strike, but put them in strategic reserves.
yeah.
I don't know if you watched his games on the stream.
I haven't watched them back yet, no.
Okay, because I think in both games that he played on stream, he had at
Mm.
least two of the predators in strategic reserve. Just having them there, because it's a bit harder to hide on with so many models and so many tanks,
Mm.
but also just having a beat stick somewhere. You don't need that shooting immediately.
Yeah.
And if you pop something out behind a building, well, suddenly there's a predator in your firing lane.
Yeah, it makes sense too, because usually CSM plays Renegade Raiders, which gives those things assault. Here you don't have it, so you need another delivery mechanism. So sometimes it's really good to keep your opponent honest by saying, "I still have Predator, but that's come in any board edge or even rapid ingress to draw a fresh angle." So it
Mm,
really limits your opponent in where it can stage, while they also have to take into account the insane threat range of the Cursed Cultist units. So it really creates a good problem
yeah, keeps them on their toes.
for sure.
So this is another basically board control pressure list.
Yeah,
Just put the models on there, and if you don't kill them in one activation, well, they hit you back, and they can hit quite hard with that stratagem and D6 attacks that they bring.
for sure. Shooting arms will struggle as well because they have to deal with the accursed cultists, which also have blood surge key
Good
with
point.
large movement and can tag a lot of stuff, while also predators, with two of them being annihilators, plink away at your tanks in the meantime. So it's real hard to deal with.
Yeah, it's so much stuff on the board, and good luck. I think we saw that in the last game that he played versus not the last game he played, but on stream versus Yort.
Mhm,
Yort fired once. He kind of forgot the blood surge at that time. He
mhm.
knew, but he was like, okay, I'm gonna shoot with this first, and then he made the blood surge. Fortunately for Yort, it was a one, so he did not manage to get into engagement range.
Yeah, good
But
thing.
yeah, exactly. But that can be a quite scary thing if suddenly you have a 15 model unit brick getting closer and closer every time you shoot at
Yeah, imagine if they were in power armor and could do it for 8 inches guaranteed. That would be quite
them.
strong, wouldn't it?
Exactly. But on the other hand, lists like that miss the survivability, I think, of the cultist blob. The amount of wounds with the field no pain that they can survive. So the core units stay on the board.
Maybe. I think people just have hobby lag, so they haven't brought 70 yet, like France did, for example.
Oh, really? They had seven. Oh, right. They had
I believe
70
they
of
even had 80.
80. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty insane. Um, so let's take a short sidestep to these lists and
Mhm.
their scoring potential, and especially the attacking choices that they made. Because honestly, I was under the impression that knights were still very strong, and that a list like that you need some attacking in your list to do that, and that Vanguard Vet block with the 10 Inferno pistols with
Mhm.
the +1 to hit from Dante, like you
Yeah,
said, that's a ton of Melta shots that you can put out at close range. Do you think
it
that is
is.
something that is needed?
I don't think so because honestly, it doesn't do that much tonight. I believe because on average you do, let's say, 5 wounds if you're real lucky into a knight. I think 4 or 3 is the average. Take an Invan in there, you're not always in melter range, and you do 6 damage. So I don't
Mm,
think that's the thing that is great. I think what JC's list does against knight is it just ties him up, gives him 2 units to which tag him. You can't free yourself from both, and that kind of disables the knight for a turn, which means the rest of your army can stage up to deal with it later and do the actual damage.
right.
And of course, the Death Company and Sengard do actual great damage with the Lance lethal strat.
Ah, yeah. I don't think did the toughness change anything on that regard, or is it were the
No,
breakpoints about the same?
No, for the big knights, it's insignificant.
Mm,
It's just for the war dogs that Blood Angels got even better. But well, before they famously had an amazing matchup against a small dog list from CK. Making it even better doesn't really change
change
much
up.
for them.
Right, they already beat them up.
Oh yeah.
And then of course we already have the second change. We talked about it briefly. Yeah, they were kind of disappointing before the change in a lore-wise, for me anyway. They've got
Mhm.
awesome new models. They are
Yep.
the elite of the elite, and they were hitting on threes. What?
Yeah, it's crazy, and I think many Blood Angels players were looking jealously at, for example, Deathwing Knights, which did hit on twos.
Yeah, exactly. And now they're back with a weapon skill of 2 ups. They still shoot on 3 ups.
I do believe so. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, they
and
do.
then an extra attack on the spears, which is kind of interesting because the big blob that he brought was with
Mhm.
the blades, not with the spears.
Yes, that's for one simple reason. AP3 is still huge, especially in melee mirrors or playing into Arm of Contempt factions. You want to be
Oh,
able to clear bricks real efficiently, and AP3 forcing power armor onto 6 up saves is such a huge breakpoint. And because he has a captain attached, they get a +1 strength again, so they go up to strength 9, I believe, on the charge.
those are really
And
good
with
tools.
Lance lethal, they really do put in a lot of damage, or not even lethal, because then you have to battle shock yourself. Lance itself is insane on those models.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so all over, I think the JC's list is just really solid. Do you think there's a list that stops a list like that in its tracks and is not built to do so?
I think my list could do it, but not on this terrain set, probably.
Hmm,
So Death Guards really has the tools. Aside from that, I'm talking more from a team's perspective because this list lacks guns. So on a more neutral table, it could maybe struggle into some of the more combined arms approaches, but it's real strong at this point. Eldar still has a good matchup in it generally, but this many jump packs is really hard for Eldar still to deal with. So it's more table terrain format dependent, I would say.
I see.
On DTT, pretty unstoppable, I'd reckon.
I think if you look at the top three, or maybe
Hmm.
even the top five, we have two heavy melee, like the Blood Angels and the CSM Chaos Cult,
Yep.
which is really based on melee, and the Necrons, yeah, they just stay there. They're just sticky. Doesn't really
Yeah,
matter.
no, table is indifferent to them. They just care about which matchups they hit, and since they didn't hit the other two podium contenders, they got their
Yeah,
way through to the podium.
exactly. Yeah, that's a really good point. I think if they were up against either of those other two players, the amount of attacks from both of the lists
Mm.
can cut through those Necrons pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's all about having one activation that can do it, and both these lists have those in multiples, actually.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, do we need to really talk about the Necrons list? Like you said, it's a list that has been played quite often.
Mm.
There were not really a lot of changes from a regular list. Less warriors, like you said, but
Yeah.
more buffs from the supporting units.
Yeah,
And
the buffs are the same. What he did is he brought in a bit more damage with bringing two Locust Destroyer bricks.
mhm,
But it's still quite tough to shift them, and you don't really have time for them since you have the warriors all up in your face, tagging your important activations. So it's just a list that bogs you down and, well, keeps the midboard to its own.
I see. Okay. Yeah, and then the CSM Chaos Cult. Like you said, he hasn't played it a lot yet, but
Yeah.
he piloted it very well. Yeah, it's basically just put the bodies on the field. If you need any AT, you have the Predators. Um, and besides that, the amount of attacks from the Torments can do a lot of work into vehicles as well if you really need that.
Yeah, for sure. I think this list is all about timing and knowing when to commit what. Because losing one of those three bricks can be backbreaking if you do it at the wrong time because you can't quite get the pressure where you need it to be. And I think he managed that really well. I believe I saw a bit of Jord's game where he said he wants to push all three because he saw that Jord was chipping away at the units at some point. So he
Hmm.
thought, I need to get all the board space I can get right now, or Jort will probably get a foothold in the middle. And I think that was the correct call if you see the end result.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, even those flamers did get some shooting off in one of the activations,
Hmm.
and they managed to take out a lot of those models.
Yeah, the crow brick is great for that, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so interesting list, top three.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we take a peek at the latest data slate, do you have any
Mhm.
idea what the we already kind of talked about it for I think these lists because the Blood Angels had the Sanger changes, some point changes, but barely any.
Mhm.
Um, the Necrons had Silent King tweaks, but he didn't use that, so nothing there. And the CSM Chaos Cult list did get changes on the Dark Commune points.
Yep.
Do you know what
So
he had
great.
to cut to do that in order to fit it in?
I think what you do is you cut an enhancement and you're already there. It's not that much of a point hike, honestly. They
Yeah,
keep
10 points.
giving them tiny love taps and they keep being great.
Yeah, just so many models, so many stuff on the board. Um, this list, I think, or this event, we were playing with the data slate. It was like a
Yes.
week in advance before we knew if we were playing with that or not.
Yep.
No Imperial Knight Codex, and of course, no Drukhari Codex, because those two haven't been released yet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any ideas on what they might be changing up with the release?
From those two codexes, well,
Yeah.
Drukhari, I'll be honest, I haven't looked into too much yet. Imperial Knights, I'm happy to see their changes. It's a lot more damage, I believe, that's inbuilt, or at least deliverability of the damage
Hmm.
with the detachment that gives you assault. But what I love is that they took away kind of a feels bad mechanic in the army, and that's the feel no pain. Because now it's way more easy for your opponent to do its damage calculations and see what lives and what not. While the Imperial Knight player gets a whole new toolbox to deliver the damage in a way he likes to. So I think the gameplay became a bit less toxic because people were getting real frustrated with a knight living on one feel no pain and just blasting one quarter of the board away once again.
Yeah.
Rightfully so, I think. So I think it's a positive change for the meta. I think people are overblowing how deadly they're going to be, and the turn one alpha strike people believe there are, because I think the other top armies in the meta can cope with knights quite handily.
Uh, Interesting that you talk about that because let's take a peek at the current the top scoring factions of last or this week from
Hmm.
the time the data slate came out until basically today. Um, so the top win faction in the this week in this week is basically Eldari.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. On the other hand, we saw barely any Eldari in the top. I think the highest of the Phoenix GT. It was well, not really on the high end. Let's keep it at that.
Yeah, I think that's very self-explanatory if you look at the list. I think those lists are too honest. Because I think the 30 swooping hawk list you saw Liam VSL play at WC lately, which were very prominent at ETC as well, is still really impressive. I know that list took a bit of point hike, and you maybe have to drop one unit. It's not enough. It was already one of the best armies in the meta, and it may only struggle really against World Eaters from the current top other armies.
And that is from a WTC perspective or just general RTT as well.
General RTT as well. I think Eldar is in a great spot, but the lists that are performing real well are really skewed.
Hmm.
So the real diehard Eldar players will only probably have access to those models.
Right, that makes
Not
sense.
everyone has 30 Swooping Hogs lying about.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of Burrowhammer coming up for certain events,
Oh
making
yeah.
sure that you have those models ready or not. So the Eldari are at 60%, then we have the Grey Knights at 58%. I'm not completely sure what uh, detachment they were playing, but I think it's Warpaint because if you look at the top
Probably.
detachments, it has a very high win percentage as well. Then we get the Gene Stealer cults.
Hmm.
Um, Black Templar, Imperial Knights, World Eaters, Death Guard, and then we are around at that 52, 53% win rate,
The
which I think
Goldilocks
is
then.
healthy.
Yeah.
Exactly. The top three is Eldari, Grey Knights, and Gene Stealer cults.
All right.
Any? Any thoughts about the Grey Knights and Gene Stealer Cults?
I will be honest. I'm surprised to see Gene Silicate still up there because that army got hit real hard. So I was expecting a bit of faction abandonment there.
Hmm.
Ennis Wilson, famously, the probably one of the best GSC players in the world, has become bored of them and wants to play something else. Eric Latheras from Team Australia, same thing. He's playing a Gaunt Carpenter in his list at these days. But apparently, there's still some real strength in the faction, so surprising to see.
That is indeed quite interesting. So, um, we have one codex, I think coming out Saturday, I think, or last Saturday, the Imperial Knights Codex. I think it's
Hmm.
out. You can already get it. I'm not sure if it's officially released with a update. Not
Hmm.
sure.
Could be.
Um, could be very soon anyway. So that's gonna maybe. No, I don't think it will really change anything because Knights were already pretty high on their win rate, so people are still making sure that they can deal with them.
Yep, I agree.
Um, Drukari is gonna be fun. Not sure. I always hate playing against them as also an opponent because they have a lot of tricks, nasty stuff that they can do. Just but it's I think it's a hard to pilot list usually
Yeah,
Drukari.
yeah. You see very few people getting real success with them.
Exactly. We have our own CJ, of course, at the order
Yep,
that does pretty well with them.
for sure.
Um, so that is basically it for the Phoenix GT on a win perspective. The top 10, I think, if you look at them, it's a lot of melee lists.
Yep,
There weren't really a lot of shooting with the Necrons, but they don't really, yeah, they shoot, but they just don't die.
yep.
Then we have Thousand Suns, some Custodies, and then the Grey Knights, and that's about it. We have
Yeah,
World Eaters, Black Templar, Death Guard, your list. Um,
not my list.
oh no, that's the Lauren's list. Oh, you're
I would
correct
list, yeah.
indeed. Fourth, yeah. Ooh, were there any big changes from his list compared to your list that you were interested in, or about the same?
This is a list that Louds has been running for a long time. He has made a very few tweaks because his specific list didn't really get hit that hard with the points data slates that came before the real data slate.
Mm,
Um, he plays a different detachment. It's more built towards Plague Marines, and I just wanted to have fun and put Morty on the table. So real different in build.
true. Yeah, that makes sense. You want to have those big, awesome models on the table sometimes,
From
especially
time
at
to time, you do.
yeah. Um, so let's go on to the next topic then.
Yes.
You're not just a regular player, you're also the team captain of Team NL.
Yeah, that's right. I was voted as captain for this year, taking over from Christian Dornberg, who did a great job for us last year.
Hmm.
And yeah, looking forward to the year ahead. Have already got a lot of new signups, new faces to the team, and hope to see a lot more before the signups close October 4th.
Great. Can you take me through what it takes to be a Team NL player, and why should I or should someone try to sign up and be part of Team NL?
Yeah, of course. I'll start with the latter because I think there's more reasons to sign up to Team NL than the ambition to actually become part of the playing squad.
Hmm.
Because when I initially joined the team 2 years ago, the whole incentive for me was that you would join a group of one of the some of the very best players in the Netherlands, participate in trainings weekends, have access to their Discord, participate in TTS events, TTS scrims against different countries to really test your skills and improve. And well, that year went really well in the improvement part because I made the team the very same year. But the initial outlook was, well, just improving as a player and becoming better for my local tournaments, RTTs, what have you not.
Right.
What it takes for a Team Manel player is real complicated because being a good Warhammer player is not enough, honestly. Of course, you need to be able to match against the best because if you're aiming for a top eight place, starting roster at 8 players,
Hmm.
you are actually applying to play against the very best players in the world, and you have to be able to stand your own, obviously, because you're representing the Netherlands as a country.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
means you have to be able to perform under that type of pressure, which is different from reaching the finals of your local RTT, probably. There's a lot more people depending on you, and if people haven't played in teams before, it means your score matters for the other guys in the team very much so.
Yeah.
Um, Being able to deal with that is difficult at times, but I think it's a real fun challenge, and Teams is one of the most fun ways to play Warhammer anyway. Aside from that, some soft skills you need to be able to work in a team, obviously, able to
Team
communicate.
NL. Yeah.
Team it out, yep. And one of the key things at WTC, what you will find is players are actually real chill compared to most local GTs. Actually, the better the player, the more chill your game usually is because everything has to be spoken out, talked out loud, and intent is very important. So what you intend to do is mostly more important than where your models actually are. So if you have a tiny sword staking out or whatever,
Yeah.
usually the other player will say, "Hey, just tweak him around, whatever." Or if you're making a move, "Hey, are you sure you want to do that? Because I can do, for example, a reactive move, or I have a real solid Overwatch over here." So everything is very much with the most information available. So you need to be able to also communicate that to your opponent effectively because sportsmanship is real important. And we, as Team Netherlands, are very proud that we are always regarded as one of the more sporting nations about, which allows us access into many practice events. And that's a reputation we intend to keep.
Interesting. So it's not just playing in the actual WTC events as a member of Team NL, but
Hmm.
it's a bigger group of players that they
Yeah,
all get to participate in practice games, knowledge sharing. So even if I'm a player on the medium level,
mhm,
the regular RTT, I end may somewhere around the middle rankings. I can
yeah,
still sign up and improve as a player while at the same time helping Team NL and maybe
yeah,
even get good enough to join the actual selection
exactly.
and be part of an awesome team group situation event itself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a great in to get into 40K teams, which is also growing ever so slightly in the Netherlands. We have, of course, Battle of the Clubs coming up in, I think, just about a month.
Hmm.
And yeah, I would recommend anyone who has played Warhammer competitively so far to try and get into the team side of things because we all have had those moments in an RTT where you get a pairing against an army you know you just cannot deal with. And it's real annoying because the run, usually, if your equal player skill, ends there. In teams, getting a good result because it's differential score based is already getting a tight loss into that, which can be really gratifying and actually more important sometimes than some of the teammates that get an easy matchup and get a win. So it's really nice that every game kind of has a different loading to it, and sometimes getting a loss is great for the team actually,
Yeah.
and that's kind of changed your outlook as well. And it's one of the contributing factors to why WTC has very little toxicity problems because people kind of go into a matchup knowing what to expect. Both of them have practiced it extensively, so probably know who has the winning side, who is the losing. And because the game kind of flows into a more natural state because of that, so both players play it clean, the vibe is amazing.
Yeah, I've done one team event as a fill-in for the order before I actually joined the order,
Hmm.
and as an Imperial Knights player back then, um, I always tried. I got matched up with bad matchups,
Hmm.
and it was actually kind of fun to try and see how many points I could still earn,
Yeah,
even though I knew I was gonna lose. Even earning
yeah,
those
exactly.
5 points more by sacrificing some other unit. If I'm not gonna win, I just need to make sure I don't lose as badly as we planned I would lose. And that
Exactly.
was
And
really
yeah,
fun.
yeah, it's amazing. And you get other benefits from being in that role because probably you get the most preferable table. So maybe the matchup isn't as bad as you thought.
Yeah.
So it adds a whole new dynamic to the game, which I enjoy very much. Well, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here.
Exactly. So what do people need to do if they want to sign up as a prospect for Team NL? Where can they reach out?
Well, if you are in the Dutch 40K community group app, I've already sent out a couple of applications.
Hmm.
There's a Google form that you just have to fill out, which asks some very simple questions. And then you will be added to the prospect pool, which will continue on until WTC, which is sadly not yet announced when it is. But that will give you the opportunity to come into the group, go to trainings weekends, participate in international scrims, and reach out to some of the very best players in the Netherlands, like, for example, our recent Phoenix winner, JC van der Lee.
Interesting. Yeah, it's fun to see how you edge of rank up against one of the other players that actually did very well at that event.
Yeah,
Interesting. I will also be placing a link to the Google Forms in the description of this podcast. So if you want
amazing.
to find out and see, click check the show notes, check the description, and you will be able to add yourself to the prospect list.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, very exciting. Um, so let's pivot back a bit to the lists we had on the event. We already talked about them quite a bit. Um, I thought the naming of the Blood Angels list, Veni Vidi Venvets, was quite interesting. The same goes for the Chaos Space Marines Chaos Cult list. It's always fun to see a bit of humor in the way the lists are built, because lists can be a bit boring sometimes, and that
Yeah,
helps to keep remove a bit of the edge.
for sure.
Um, what I'm interested in from hearing about you is the way the Phoenix GT did their terrain layouts based on the day instead of swapping them around each matchup. Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think something needs to change about that? How do you feel as a player about that?
As a player, I think it's really relaxing because it means you have a longer break in between games. Or on the contrary, if you arrive at the table late, you don't eat into your game time because the table should already be properly set up. You just have to double check a few things because things get knocked, and
Hmm.
you're all set to go. So I think it really helps you relax a bit more.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. That really helps with uh, taking off the edge a bit. I
Yeah,
mean, it's a
for
long
sure.
event. We already had the 5-2 instead of 3-3.
Mm.
Um, and then having the same layout, even though they're DTT layout, so they uh, they're a bit biased sometimes compared to WTC, where you have 8 layouts where you get to choose from,
Yeah.
and you get to choose on what table you're playing, at least in a team event.
Yeah.
So that's always interesting. What I want to do is take a quick peek to what events are upcoming. Do you have
Hmm.
any events that you are working towards in the coming month?
In the coming month, yeah, we have our first trainings weekend as Team NL coming up, second weekend of October. So preparations for that are ongoing.
Okay.
After that, I'll be attending the Gooi Plus RTT in Hilversum,
Hmm.
local club RTT, where me and the guys from Mannen van het Wapen are attending as well. And after that is probably my favorite event in the Netherlands all year, Battle of the Clubs, which
Battle of
started last
Clubs.
year and it already made a great impression.
Ah, cool. Very cool. We will be joining as the order as well. I will not be
Looking
joining
forward.
as a player.
Hmm.
I will be joining as a streamer. So
Cool.
we will be streaming that event. So that is really fun. We have 2 events still in September. I think upcoming weekend. That's in 4 days. This podcast should be up by then, but who knows? We have the Eierbal Cup and the Fall 2025 of the OES. What is that?
Ordo Exterminatus, I believe.
Exactly. Both on Saturday, but I think one is at the top of the Netherlands and one is in the south of the Netherlands. So if you're close to one of them, make sure you check them out. Um, so that is it for. I think we have about talked about everything that I was kind of planning to.
Hmm.
Um, so first of all, I would like to congratulate JC, Justin, and Martijn for an awesome top 3 ending.
Yeah, well done, guys.
Exactly, it was really fun to see all of them on stream. Did I see Justin on stream?
I don't
I
believe
don't
so,
think so.
but
I did. No.
don't be too bothered. Those aren't the most exciting games to watch, and Justin knows it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You see a lot of warriors keep standing back up, and
Yeah, it's
maybe
hard
the
to
opponent
track.
getting frustrated.
Yeah,
The deadline for the Team NL prospect list is the 4th of October. Is that correct?
that is correct. However, if the WTC still hasn't announced the final date of when the WTC will be held, we'll probably keep extending it because we have a couple of people who are waiting in the wings, waiting to know whether they can actually attend the main event.
Ah. Yeah.
hoping to publish news about that shortly. But if it gets postponed, I'll sure to let people know.
Okay, excellent. We will keep everybody updated and all. What I'm really interested in is from our listeners or viewers, if you have any stuff that you would like me and my other hosts to talk about, maybe the content, events, or do you have any suggestion for guests? If you want to reach me, you can do so through the comment section on YouTube. I don't have a topic yet for the next podcast, but I will be trying to keep that podcast rolling and keep everybody informed about changes in the Dutch tournament Warhammer 40k scene.
Awesome.
So Dan, thank you very much for joining me in this podcast. I hope you have a lot of awesome members signing up for your Team NL.
I
Thanks
hope
for
so
playing on
too.
stream on the Phoenix GT, and I wish everybody a pleasant night, morning, or evening.